Hi, welcome to Family in Focus with me, Dr. Wendy Schofer. I'm a pediatrician with over 20 years of caring for families in the office and now a multi-certified health and life coach, helping parents just like you ditch the stress and the drama about raising a healthy family at every weight. This is episode number 107 of the podcast, brought to you right here on YouTube. So, hey, while you're at it, head on over to my website. So, www.wendychauffeurmd, of course, it's right below, .com, and check out my free resources, including, first of all, Weight Loss 101 for your whole family. It is a free mini course that answers the most commonly asked questions that parents have about how do they help their kids? Where do I find Weight Loss 101? Check that out. There's also a new workbook that I've added that is called Modern Day Stress Relief for Parents, because we can all use that, don't you think? Yeah. So, anyway, let's dive into our topic today, sneaking snacks. All right. So recently, I was meeting up with parents in the Family in Focus group coaching program. So it's a signature 12-week program that we're running right now. And there was a conversation that came up about how we should belong in a society of snack sneakers, because all of us in the room were like, yeah, me too. My kid does that. I'm facing that all the time. Me too, me too, me too. And well, I was like, well, the Society of Snack Sneakers doesn't quite sound like it applies for parents. Maybe it should be Snack Sneakers Synonymous. I'm not sure what to call it right now, but it's a topic of discussion and it's something I wanted to describe more here and really kind of dive into what it is that we can do as parents about all these concerns with sneaking snacks in our home. I'm going to see how clearly I can say this every single time that I do this today. Sneaking snacks. All right. So let's talk about this. We're going to go into 3 steps. Okay. So, first of all, first step, let's just kind of suspend one track that's kind of playing in the background of your mind right now. And that's concluding that snack sneaking is a problem. I know. I know. It's a big one here. The thing is that as soon as we like just say, oh, I see snack sneaking, I'm going to try to say it right. I see it and it's a problem. We go right to fix it brain. Okay. And in order to really understand what's going on and really to be able to approach this in a different way than what we've been doing for years and why we're all like in the same room going, oh my God, me too, haven't figured out what do I need to do? We have to first step out of the version of ourselves that is concluding right now that snack sneaking is the problem. It is the biggest, most important step because when we identify a problem, we jump to fix it mode and we don't pause to get curious, to understand, to consider other perspectives or options at all. And we also get like this huge hit of dopamine from thinking, I'm right, I got it. And we keep on reinforcing that by saying, all right, I see the problem. Look at that. There's more evidence. See, it's a problem. Keep on coming back. And we're just kind of like fertilizing it more and more like this is the problem. There's also, right along with that, there's a cognitive bias. Once you think you've got an answer or a snack sneaker, the brain tends to find all the evidence to support your theory. So, a classic example of this, as a military family, thinking of different military ones, think about the rabbit hole that we fell into seeking weapons of mass destruction back in Iraq. It was a cognitive bias. So we're like, well, they have to be there. We must find them. We're finding all this evidence for it. But it's a cognitive bias, as we have found after the fact that wasn't indeed the case. For a current example, we can think about the negative impact of social media, which, as I say that, we could be like, oh, yeah, I mean, social media, it's negative. It can feel really true, but yet it's another form of cognitive bias because we tend to then look at the downside, all the evidence for the downside without any consideration of other perspectives. What positive role, maybe even just a neutral role social media has in our lives, maybe how it's contributing to the fabric of our lives without it all being negative. I'm going to save social media and further discussion for another day. But the other thing about social media, okay, which I will share with you today, is that when we start talking about things on social media, we tend to find ourselves clustered with like minded folks who support our current views because we've organized ourselves into groups often based off of our views. And when we come together like that, we start building passion and fervor and being very, very steadfast about an approach. So this is similar to with the example of sneaking food. If you go into a forum and you say, my kid sneaks food, well, there tends to be a roar of responses about how you need to just not have that food in the house. You need to lock it up. You need to control access. Again, because it's coming to the conclusion, everybody in the same circle is concluding sneaking snacks is a problem. This is what you need to do to fix it. There's a pregnant pause here. So, but what is the answer? I'm going to ask you to first just step back and ask, what is the problem? While we think that it's sneaking snacks, in order to find out what other possibilities there could be, we have to move on to step number 2. So, step number 2 is get really crystal clear about what you're talking about. What does snack sneaking mean? Think of a particular instance. If you're having trouble coming up with one, it may be time to consider if this is really snack sneaking or something else that is just kind of getting all lumped together, or, maybe confusion about, well, eating at non-meal times or not knowing that the cake on the counter was supposed to go to Devin's party tonight or something like that. I'm going to ask you to get really crystal clear on a particular situation, on a particular instance, and describe, what does snack sneaking mean? What does it look like? Who's in the environment? What's in the environment? Kind of like you're painting a picture. Another way of saying it is kind of like if you were going into a court of law and talking about how would you share what it is that you're witnessing if you're just, a fly in the room. What would you be seeing? And you can also do this going forward. So if this is new to you, you're like, well, I don't know of a particular situation right now. Well, you can observe this in the future, witness what is going on the next time you're like, hold on a minute, this is snack sneaking. Well, get clear. What is it? What do you see? And what we're doing is we're looking at the patterns. It's, I love putting on the super sleuth hat and taking notes, like, all right, start scribbling on the pad. What is it that you see? Look at the patterns. Does is sneaking snacks meaning having more Doritos than everybody else at one time? Is it coming home and taking a snack when, being told to wait until dinner time to eat? Is it a child creating a stash of candy, like a Halloween candy in their room? Is it taking candy from the store without paying for it? Now, some of these things you may find that you have other words for it, and that's okay. That's why we're just getting really clear about what's going on. And then we're looking at the patterns. What are the patterns of who is around? Maybe What kind of time of day is this happening? What's happened before or afterwards? What are the emotions that you notice that your child is experiencing if we're talking about them sneaking snacks? But also, what are the emotions that you're noticing in yourself, including if you're the one that's sneaking snacks? We are not immune from this. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. So then we're going to move on to the third step. And I need you to first take a deep breath before you move on to step three. So just like the first step was kind of hard, like let's suspend for a moment in step number one that sneaking snacks is a problem. Now in step number three, we're going to take that deep breath and we're going to make them right. Let me tell you more, okay? It's something where we're looking at making whoever it is that is the main player in this situation that we're describing about sneaking food. So whether it's yourself, whether it's your child, whether it's a partner, whoever it is, make them right for the choice they made. How are they right to take the food, to eat it? However they did in this picture that you just painted, how is it the right choice? Perhaps they're hungry. Perhaps they're afraid of being scolded for taking food, and so they sneak it to avoid experiencing shame. Perhaps they're giving it to a friend. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding about the food or the timing, the location, the rules. Perhaps they just don't want to hear anything about their food choices. How does it make sense that they took it? And let me rephrase that. How does it not only make sense that they took it, but you can see how they felt it was the right decision for them? Now, I hear you thinking, nope, they know the rules, and I'm teaching moderation. Moderation means very little in the moment to a child with a developing brain. And quite honestly, it means very little to us when we are really in a highly emotionally charged brain. We just know what it is that we want. Kids know what they want. They're not thinking about the consequences or necessarily, punishment for not following the rules. So, how did they make a decision that they thought was the right one right now for them? Now, I want to share an example of something that could be looked at as sneaking food. Again, it depends on what it is that you're calling it, how you're defining it, and what you're witnessing. So, and of course, it involves me. So, I was driving home from work and I asked my husband if he wanted to go out for dinner or stay at home. And as Joel does, he says, I've already got my comfy pants on and I'm going to make some grilled cheese sandwiches so we can use up these leftovers. Okay. Guess what, though? That's totally not what I wanted. I wanted some fresh, hot soup, and I knew we didn't have any at home. I mean, who has grilled cheese sandwiches without soup? So I stopped along the way and I picked up some yummy coconut curry from the Thai place that's right down the road. And when I got home, my husband was like, what? Why? I would have told you to get something for me. Now, again, the definition of sneaking can be very variable here, which is why you need to get clear on what it is that you mean in each situation. But I can see how my husband could have thought of this as being sneaky about getting something without telling him, without asking him. In truth, I desired the soup, not grilled cheese made out of leftovers. I was cold and I wanted a particular type of comfort. And I thought that my husband already had his comfy pants and dinner at home. So I can see how he would think me wrong to pick up food without including him. And I can also see how, in the moment, I thought it was totally the right choice to honor his choice to stay home and make grilled cheese, and for me to stop, grab the soup I wanted, and join him for dinner. I actually thought it was a win-win. With this example, I'm just trying to like use a particular situation here to make a conclusion. When we start giving the benefit of the doubt and assume that there is a way that whoever it is was in the right, that they did the best decision that they could at the time, we can start welcoming a very helpful emotion, compassion. It's the emotion of a connection and an understanding. And here's the thing though, you may not agree with the decision that someone else has made. But another tidbit to really share here is that shame, guilt, layering on punishments, especially under that guise of like, you need to experience consequences, and here I'm going to give them to you, it tends to drive snack sneaking further underground. Others don't stop the behavior. We don't stop the behavior because it's something where we never gave the chance to understand why it was happening in the first place. It's like trying to shut down a behavior without understanding why it was there in the first place. That is destined to not work because we're not getting, as everybody keeps on saying, going upstream, going to the root and understanding more of what's happening at the root. Well, that's talking about more of what are the needs? What is it that they were actually experiencing at the time, and not just looking at the actions or the behavior? So in this case, the snack sneaking. Our super sleuthing hat and the notepad and all the things that we're looking at with the patterns are to be able to go upstream, to be able to understand more of what is going on the inside when all we see is the outside and food wrappers. So this becomes so much more about, well, about emotions. When you start collecting clues, looking at patterns, there's going to be strong patterns of emotions that are showing up: frustration, resistance, not wanting to be told no, desire. But it also becomes about communication, creating a foundation of how things are done in your home, boundaries, and also understanding emotions and letting kids learn how to feel their emotions, which takes a lot of emotional adulthood for us to be able to witness them doing that. I found that when I sneak food, and yes, I'm guilty, it is totally, it's so many different reasons. Maybe I just don't want to share. You know what? This is my candy bar, and nobody's going to know about it today because I don't want to share it. Maybe I don't want to, let somebody else see me eating something yummy. That kind of sounds like because I don't want to share. Maybe I don't want to talk about it. Whatever it is that's going on that's leading me to reach for that food that someone else may think is suspect. And I don't want to be shamed about my decision. I sneak it, so take the food, eat it, and do it undercover because I don't want to hear anybody else's judgment about what it is that I'm doing. So, what about you? When do you sneak food? Why? Take some time to write it down and then consider how you may understand so much more about what your kids are experiencing than you did just a short while ago, because we're experiencing this too. Drop me a line with what you're discovering. How is this helping in your home? How is this shining a light, a new perspective that might be helping you connect, communicate, and really take different steps than what you have in the past with your family? So drop me a line. So again, always in the show notes, Wendy at wendychauffeurmd.com. And of course, you can also join the next Family in Focus group coaching program. We start again in April, and you can find out more at wendychauffeurmd.com/FIS. Just look in the show notes. I'm not even going to say it. It's in the show notes. Okay. But you'll find out all about our next program. All right. So much love. Mwah. I'll see you soon.